Hi everyone and welcome to the next episode of Blocktales. My name is Katharina, I'm the founder of Luna Vision, and today I have with me Maximilian Bruckner. Max, you are the active head of sales and marketing at 2026 Capital, but maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry. So strong start already with minor Wi-Fi issues, but we'll get over it. Hi, I'm Max. I work at 2026 Capital. We're a crypto investment advisor from Switzerland, but I live in Germany. I live in Frankfurt. It's where I studied, and it's where I enjoy spending my time.
How so? First question, because I once entered Frankfurt from the wrong side, ending up in the train station part, and that was horrible.
Yeah, I know. We discussed this many times. I still think that's your fault. But no, I don't know. Frankfurt, it takes a little getting used to, but once you start to know your way around, it's very interesting, especially in the summer. It gets very nice. I think it has an underrated blockchain and crypto community. So there are pretty much meetups here happening regularly that you can go to. Of course, it's a little bit finance focused, so you're very much like on this intersection of the traditional financial world and crypto assets and DeFi, and seeing how that might all pan out in the future. So that's an exciting space to be in. We have, of course, the Frankfurt School where I studied and the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center there, which in itself brings quite a strong network with it. And then just quality of life. I like having a walkable city, let's say. And so Frankfurt, from the size, you can get everywhere you need to be pretty quickly. Walking or on bike, you almost never spend like 30 minutes in the subway just to get to where you're trying to go. So that's pretty much what I like about it.
Nice. I think the last part about biking and going by foot, that's something your grandparents probably understood. But in the first part of your explanation why you like Frankfurt, there were quite some words that your grandparents probably didn't understand, like refi, DeFi, and so on, crypto,
That's
blockchain,
true.
whatever. So our first question usually is, how would you explain your everyday Web3 life to your grandma?
I think my everyday life is a little easier to explain because it's a job. So I can just tell her, look, I'm working from home. I write a lot of emails. I have a lot of calls and sales conversations. If I try to explain why this is what I'm doing, I think that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult. I think I might take the easy way out and just tell them that I'm working on or in the next generation of the internet. And we're trying to, or the vision of the area I'm working in is trying to make an open banking system that's free from institutions or freer from institutions. That's probably the way I would go. I mean, my grandma is quite advanced. She uses WhatsApp and sends me emojis and everything. But I think trying to explain the tech or Bitcoin itself behind it is probably still a bit far-fetched.
Did you ever actually try?
No, but they also haven't actually asked. So
Okay, so maybe you could tell your grandparents, hey, I was in a podcast and maybe you want to watch me, and then they get the hint, and next time you see them,
they don't speak English, so I'd have to do it in German anyways, which is maybe more difficult given how many English words we use.
Do you think it's a bigger challenge to actually explain this to the generation of our grandparents than to do the actual work?
Well, if you're put on the spot like this, yes. I also think that there's the most difficult people to explain it to, unfortunately, I mean, it's not really their fault, are people that have had no experience in finance. So look, like my parents, okay, my grandpa's a butcher, so my grandparents are not the ideal target group to explain this to, but I could imagine someone else's grandparents were already in the banking industry or something like that, or their parents. And then when there's like a core understanding of finance and the financial system, then it's easier to explain why something like DeFi, decentralized finance, could be interesting. But, explaining to a 22-year-old who's studying medicine why blockchain is exciting is just as difficult as explaining it to my parents, I would say.
We should make a case study out of this. Going on the street and just letting you explain crypto and Web3 to random people. afterwards, asking them what they are doing for a
It
job.
would probably be a humbling experience. Let's put it this way. I think,
I guess it would be very interesting to hear what people think about it, actually. But coming back to your initial thoughts about Frankfurt, so you said there are many meetups, and we here in Berlin, we also have a lot of meetups. But from my perspective, when I visit Frankfurt, I don't know, the Web3 ecosystem, the people, they seem to have a little bit of a different mindset, especially because of this financial background.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
have the same feeling? Did you ever experience this? Have you ever been at a Web3 meetup in Berlin or
yeah.
outside of Frankfurt?
So yes, outside Frankfurt, yes. Also Berlin, yes. And I agree with you. It's much more financial, I guess, in Frankfurt. So because it's a lot of people that come from studying, finance or something like that, or that have worked in banks in the past or in kind of asset managers, etc., that are making the pivot themselves. So naturally, they have that kind of background. So it's very capitalistic in that sense, I guess, with the people you talk to. Whereas, Berlin, maybe it's a stereotype, but there are generally different views on different political views there also. So I think that also changes the discussion you have, because I think everybody tries to impose, in some sense, their political views or ideology onto the way they view blockchain as a tool to solve the world's problems, let's say. So then if you're talking to somebody that's more socialist, they will have a different view. If you're talking to somebody that's more capitalist, more libertarian, etc., you will have, like, I think, very different conversations about the same technology, which is pretty interesting in itself. But
That's true. That's super interesting. That's a very interesting thought to say that you will always have some kind of influence of your political view on your view of blockchain. But I would disagree on that point that in Berlin there's not only that kind of person you described, but also like
but also in
capitalistic and
Frankfurt, there's not
libertarian
only.
people here who are into crypto, Web3, Bitcoin, blockchain. Um, but what I actually realized when I went to Frankfurt, from my point of view, and the difference between Frankfurt and Berlin for me is also visible. It's not only when you talk to people, but it's actually visible, because in Berlin it's just so normal. No matter what kind of meetup you visit, people wear hoodies. People wear, I don't know, some people actually look like they just got out of bed, no matter what time of the day it is. And I have the feeling in Frankfurt this never happens.
That's probably true. I think it depends a little bit on the meetup, but yeah, I mean, we are all both talking in stereotypes right now, but I think there is
Yeah,
some truth
obviously.
at the bottom of it. Yeah. So again, banking background, people that have had a career or internships, or started their career in banking, let's say, versus tech, typically they will be wearing their uniform. They will be more comfortable also in their uniform. And I mean, I prefer to look at somebody in a suit than somebody that looks like they just got out of bed. Let me put it this way.
Okay, there we have the reason why you're living in Frankfurt and not in Berlin.
Not
No, but actually, I would like to attend a meetup maybe in Munich or something like another big crypto hub in Germany, just to have a comparison if there's a third
third
kind of
way,
person. Yes.
like normal people.
I'm not sure about that. Can we actually find really normal people in Web3, or are we all kind of special and different just because we think of
Just because we think we're
Web3 as a
different.
good thing and as we want to foster it?
No, I mean, I think there are pretty normal people in Web3 still. I mean, not everybody is on the extremes, so to say, right? I think, look,
Aren't you
I
already
don't
a
know
little
how
bit
well I know you,
extreme?
but I would describe you as a pretty normal person, right? That is
Oh, that's
doing
nice of
Web3.
you.
I don't
Most
know.
people don't.
Maybe I don't know you well enough to make this assumption, but that's at least
No,
what it
it's
seems like to
fine.
me.
I mean, it's also depending on what is your perception of normal. If you are surrounded by people in Web3, and we both are, and I mean, we live in our bubble, right? Then that becomes your normal. But how do you say it? From an average person's point of view, who has never had any touch points with Web3, I think none of us are really normal, actually. I mean, you think so much about investing, and you like you as a person have so much research done in terms of technology and use cases and how to use the blockchain technology to invest. That's not what the average normal person does.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I do try to, and I think this is a problem I sometimes find with our Web3 community that I try to tell people to try to get out of is I do try to break my bubble in some sense. So I'm lucky enough that my older brother also lives in Frankfurt, so he's not in crypto at all. He's in traditional finance, let's say. So that's always a good conversation to have. My two best friends are, which I know from university, they're in like data. So they have like big data ecosystems. That's the company
That's
they're
also
working
not
at.
the normal average person.
Yeah, but they're doing sales, so they're not really the techie guy there. And I don't know. I try to break my bubble at least a little bit because it just helps give you a little bit of a perspective and also remind you that most people really don't know what this is all about because it is still a niche. And then like you dig even deeper and you go down the rabbit hole, and so it's a good test as well to see, because otherwise I don't know. Sometimes you think, oh my god, look look at all this adoption. Everybody I talk to knows about this stuff, and then it's like, well, who are you talking to? You're only talking to people that are working in the space, so of course they're going to know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some truth in that, definitely. Um,
But what about
but
yourself? I mean, in Berlin, is it maybe it's harder to break the bubble in Berlin?
yeah, actually, I know the bubble very well. I think so. There's several, I think several bubbles in Berlin, not one. So there's more the DeFi bubble, then you have more the Bitcoin only bubble, and then you have the people who are interested in everything and NFTs and I don't know, just every use case in explosive space by now. So you can also in the bubble you can talk to many different point of views, and that's pretty interesting. You have meetups where you can, for example, if you go to the Bitcoin meetup at Friedel Richter in Berlin, you can pay in the Satoshi. You have mostly only Bitcoin only people there, so only a Bitcoiner community, which is very interesting because, in my perspective, this community just is again different from the other Web3 communities. Like they speak again another language.
Mhm.
They again have a slightly different view on the world um, than other Web3 communities. But then, of course, we also have like female blockchain communities here in Berlin, several actually, which is amazing because I think DLT Talent started it a couple of years ago, and now there's already more than only one, but several groups in Berlin, which is really cool. But at the same time, yes, I also have some contacts outside of the bubble. For example, my family, which
The
are
grandparents.
challenging me every once and then to explain them why I'm doing this and what we're doing and why this should be a good thing and not a bad thing. And
I think I sometimes I think about what my mom says when people ask her what I'm doing. Like, hey, how's your son? What is he getting up to? And then how parents like to brag, but I don't know what she would tell them. Like,
I could come up. Probably she says something like, "Oh, he's into sales and marketing, and
maybe,
he's with some kind of investment company that I don't understand, but he's doing a good job there, and he's got a lot of responsibility for the sales."
maybe. You never know.
So, but how did you get there? And what did your mom actually want you to do with your educational path?
My mom still has the vision of me becoming a professor, which I've had to tell her multiple times that I don't think that's going to happen. But for somehow she has this, yeah, I don't want to call it a dream because, but it's some sort of a vision that I'm going to be a professor someday. I don't quite see it yet. Um, oh, I guess the first time I got into it was by chance. Like I feel like for a lot of people, the first time you get in contact with it, it's not because you're actively searching for it, but it's because you come across it in some way. Like the very first time I heard of it was, funnily enough, because of my little brother. So he was mining Bitcoin on his gaming laptop when he was like 10 or 11. I don't know.
That's
Obviously,
long ago.
yeah, he's pretty young still, but obviously, like laptop's gone. Bitcoin
But
he didn't have much anyways, but so that stuff's lost. But that was
I
my
mean,
first
it's
contact
long
point.
ago that you could actually mine Bitcoin on your gaming PC, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, he was he was doing it, I think, through some pools. So he went on some websites, and so. But that was the first time I ever got in touch with it. And at the time, I was like, kind of weird. Like, what are you doing? Your laptop's running all night. Like, what's going on? And then I had the pleasure of having lived in a number of different countries and continents as well. So this kind of cross-border transaction was always a thing. So there was a problem I saw, and then when I came to Frankfurt to study here at Frankfurt School, then you kind of get smacked in the face with the blockchain center. Like, you kind of have to look at it. There's no way around it. And then I had some friends that were working there, and then it just clicked, and I saw, okay, look, this is like probably a solution to some problem. I started digging deeper into it. I just found out that I found it way more interesting than anything I was studying, actually. So that may be good, maybe bad, but that's that's how I ended up in the space. And then how I got to my position, I was working as a working student at ITSA, which is a Berlin-based association. And then one of the board members there is also a board member at the company I'm at now. I had communicated at the time that I wanted to leave because I wanted to get out of ITSA is not for profit. So I was like, I want to get into the real world. So there's the Frankfurt capitalist speaking. and, and I had applied to some other companies, and then Philip, so the guy that was on the board there, and my actual current company just said, look, before you accept any offers, like, I want you to check out 2026 Capital as well and go talk to the CEO, and maybe this is actually something that's interesting for you. And then here I am. That
How does
was 2 years
the
ago.
Frankfurt capitalist world feel so far?
Pretty good. It's pretty fun.
Okay, okay. I think
Can't
there might
complain.
be some people out there who won't like this.
Well, I mean,
Even you saying this, but whatever.
of course. But I mean, at the end of the day, here's the way I think about it: is it's not like I'm working against the vision we have of blockchain, of DeFi, etc. Right? I mean, yes, we're some form of an investment advisor, but we also have some data products. We're trying to create transparency. This is my mom's dream of me being a professor. I get to hold a lot of educational lectures as well, so educating wealth managers, all those kind of things. We have also Digital Assets Academy, right? So I also hold talks there. So I think I'm giving back a decent amount as well. So
That's
my
nice.
conscience is clean. Let's put it this way.
That's a nice way of seeing this. Yes. So you now mentioned your speakers positions and also the Digital Asset Academy, and I mean, we've talked quite regularly, so I realized that you've been talking about the metaverse quite often in the last couple of weeks. Why do you believe in the metaverse?
That's a good question. It came to us quite suddenly, to be honest. And I would say that I've changed my mind on this recently. I used to be a little more skeptical than I am now. The reason I believe it now, so I think maybe the easiest way to explain it is this: like, we're not using Zoom right now. This is Riverside, but let's say we're in a Zoom call, as you and I are once a week. That's pretty nice. We used to not do that before Corona, right? So that's a pretty cool thing. Web conferencing. I mean, yes, there was Skype. And then in the evening we watch Netflix. Or we play a game, right, on our laptop or on our Xbox or whatever. And then we go to Amazon to click through things that we might want to buy or do online shopping. And all of these things are like relatively recent, and they all came with the internet. So with Web 2, let's say, pretty quickly once they really got going. So the way I see it is, do we like really think that in 5 years we're still sitting in a Zoom call? Or do you really think in 5 years, like, yes, maybe you're still gaming, but won't those games look different? Or let's say 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Won't your online shopping experience be different? Are you still scrolling and clicking, or are we getting something more immersive? And I think that's where the metaverse comes into play and where it will actually impact our lives. So we have technological advancements in VR, which leads to hopefully easier and more adoption at scale. And then what will happen is that communication, I think, entertainment, these kind of retail experiences, so online shopping and education. Again, universities, Zoom or like Coursera. I think these things will be changed dramatically, and I think it would be kind of foolish to think that, like, I don't know, Zoom is the final evolution of human communication. So where do we go? There
Yeah.
has to be a way forward, and this just seems like a plausible one to me.
Okay, but then let me challenge this a bit, because have you ever tried to enter one of the well-known metaverses, for example, Decentraland, with a, let's say, laptop that is not the newest?
Yes.
Because that's basically impossible.
Yes, and I know where you're getting at. Yeah, it sucks. But
Yeah, the world builds itself around you while you get a coffee, and after like 5 minutes you see something. But if you compare
but
it to what other people see, it's
you
still
tried
like,
this with Berlin internet, right?
yeah. But independent of the internet connection, my old computer, my old laptop was like burning hot, and like,
No, I completely get your point, and it is a valid challenge to bring, which is why I think we're not really at the stage we want to be at yet. So that's why I said I think with technological improvements, that's when adoption will come. And to be honest, those will take some years still, like 5 years, 10 years. Not sure of the exact time horizon here, but what I do know is that I think there are over 200 decentralized companies working on it. On top of that, we have all these centralized entities, like corporations that are working on the metaverse, whether it's a world or a VR headset or a gateway or interoperability. So there's a lot of effort going into it. There's a decent amount of money, and at this stage, I think we're at a point where it's going to happen. I mean, think about Facebook what you will, but changing your company's name based on your conviction that the metaverse is going to be something, and like going like all in, and I don't know if they'll be successful or not. That usually means that you're pretty convinced convinced of something, and so I think that was a big trigger as well for the ecosystem. And more short term, what I have seen, and in my opinion is true, is that there's an overhype because it's so easy to show in media. I mean, you're in marketing as well. It's kind of hard to get a good picture of a Bitcoin, but like a screenshot of the metaverse or NFTs is pretty cool and is pretty easy to kind of get to go viral, so to say. So I think that's why there was such a sudden push, as always in the cycle, because it's like finally something about this Web3 world that we can look at and share, and that's actually useful for visual media. And then, yeah, like, kind of went on a tangent there, but that's kind of my view on it.
yeah, I can't actually. I can't imagine that we are actually in the future sitting there with VR glasses. Like, maybe if it's like normal glasses, but not as long as it's these big thingies around your head for the whole day.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
it'll change.
yes, maybe for half an hour or something, but I couldn't imagine sitting there just for the immersive AR and metaverse experience, to sit there like that, like for 8 hours.
Maybe they will change. Maybe something like the Google Glass will come back, right? I think there's different solutions. To me, I used to think the same way, and then, I think this is like 3 or 4 years ago now. I was visiting Cape Town with a friend, and we were in a shopping mall, and there was an escape room, but it was completely VR. So it was just an open box in the middle of the mall, and everybody walking around could see you. And we were like, come on, let's do it. It's going to be fun. And 2 minutes into it, we're like screaming at each other. We've completely forgotten that we're in the middle of a mall. There's like people actually around us, and it was like super, super immersive. And then 45 minutes, an hour goes by. I'm not sure how long the actual thing was, and you take it off, and you're like, oh, thank God we were. Yeah, I don't know. You kind of forget where you were, and that to me. And so this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and already it wasn't like extremely uncomfortable to be wearing the headset for an hour straight. So I don't know. That was just like an experience for me where I also thought, okay, I thought it would be worse, let's say.
Would you also try like the next step? Have you seen this? I think this one movie where they are basically all living in the metaverse, but also have these kind of things where they put their bodies in, so they actually walk,
So
but
like
always on.
Ready Player One.
Yeah, for example.
Like if I could get my hands on something like that, I think I'd try it. But I'm not sure how much of this tech exists yet. I think I saw something somewhere, but I think it'd be cool to try out for sure. I'm not sure if we're gonna go all the way there, but because it's already so immersive. Just if your visual sense and your hearing is covered. So I don't know.
But I'm sure if you do, you will see it on social media because this is quite a nice picture, right?
It's true. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Uh,
maybe that was my block tale. The shopping mall in Cape
no,
Town.
no, no, no. That's coming later. That's later. But I mean, we can start with the next question that's near to the end. What's something you would like to learn but didn't yet, and why?
Oh, in our space or generally?
In general.
I think it'd be like in general. I think it'd be really cool to know how to fly a plane. It's kind of like random, but I don't know. I think that's would be a very cool thing to learn, but it's also very expensive to learn, and so very time consuming. So I have not been able
I
to do
think
it.
some people say that if you try the simulator, like for long enough, and you learn everything on a simulator, then you can fly basically in real life. Or you could. You're not allowed to,
Yeah.
but you could.
I don't know if I would trust that, but maybe. But I don't know. That's just something I think would be cool. In our space, probably coding more and better, but
I'm not sure
maybe I've
what
been
would
too
take more
lazy.
time. Yeah, what would take more time, coding or flying?
At probably coding because you don't stop learning. I think like once you know how to fly, you know how to fly. If that makes sense. Like if you know how to play, it's like I mean, it's like driving a car, oversimplified. But once you know, then you know, kind of. But I feel like at least everybody I know that knows how to code in like any language, they usually say that it's kind of like you never know everything. It's just like an ongoing process.
True. I think it's the same with blockchain. We will never know everything that's going on in our space. It's basically impossible because it's evolving so fast.
Yeah,
How should we?
yeah, that's true. But
But do you think that, like, is it? I'm not sure if it's actually a skill that is worth learning now, like coding, with the recent developments with AI.
that's a
The
good
only
point.
thing you need to know how to code is like either you need to know how to prompt or you need to be able to code and to write code for an AI, like writing the AI that is then writing your code. But I think
Or
none of us can learn this in the next couple of weeks.
yeah, or how to properly set up an API, right? That calls OpenAI or something like that, like calls GPT-4. So you can then create a web app or something like that. But even that requires some level of, well, so here's the thing. Do you think you could use ChatGPT to build, probably you could, to build a web app for something that makes API calls to ChatGPT?
As a matter of fact, I did.
Oh, okay. Well, there's the
So
proof.
yeah, we like with Luna Vision, we built a small mobile app using this technology for content creation
What?
and solving the blank page problem when you when it comes to creating posts and graphics for posts. Yes.
That's pretty sick. But so
So
just to get back, the point isn't if it's useful. I don't know how useful it would be for me to know how to fly a plane, but it's just something I'd like to do.
fair. That's a good. Yeah, fair. Good
Uh,
point. True. But yeah, you can check it out the app if you want to.
yeah, you could send me the link later. I'd love to see it.
Sure, it's called Be Posted. I'll send you a link.
Uh,
Cool. All right, I think we can wrap it up then with the last question that you
Oh no.
Tried to overcome, but not that fast.
That means the hardest
So,
question.
come on, 30 seconds. Would you like to tell us your block tale? Once upon a
Once
time.
upon a time, I mean, I can tell you an anecdote. It's not going to be very helpful to a lot of people, but maybe it'll be funny. So yesterday, so very recently, yesterday, I went. I was working I was trying out like a co-working space, and I found out that there was a mixer at the bottom, like startup singles, startup dating. So you'd go there, and then you get your name tag, and you get like blue is like a startup in active fundraising, so like a single, and then there's the color for the investor, and then there's the color for startups that aren't actively fundraising, but maybe are willing to become mentors or something, do something like that. So I went down there. I thought, well, I'm here. It was free, so I might as well just check it out. So I went there. I finished the call I was on. Was like, look, I need to get to this fundraiser, right? Went down there, put my name in, actively fundraising startup, and I walk in, and then I'm the only man there.
What?
And I noticed, like, wait a sec. So first of all, very unusual for the space. Second of all, feels out of place. And I start walking around, and then it's yeah. So it's only women, both startups and investor tags. And I've started thinking, okay, maybe this is the wrong place for me to be in. And I talked to the organizer, and she didn't tell me that I shouldn't be there, but she started saying, like, look, if you want to do speed dating with Investorinnen, so female investors, our Gründerinnen, so female founders, can set up speed dating, etc. And then I realized that I'd stumbled into a female investors for female founders event, but being without any idea about it, just kind of walking around like an idiot talking to people. So maybe the moral of the story is that there is something being done for the gender inequality in the space when it comes to diversity. Just didn't help me in that moment.
Fair. But yeah, I can imagine it was a quite funny situation for everyone watching you being
I left then.
irritated.
I left, yeah.
So, sorry. Okay. If ever anyone out there meets Max in a co-working space and he looks like lost with a name tag and everyone else around it,
I went to another female founders
tell him
event.
it's a female first event, and then he will come back for the mixed gender events again.
Yes, I'm happy to attend. I mean, happy to attend the other ones as well. Not very useful for us as a startup, but for everybody, I think it's a really great initiative. I also think it was cool that it happened there, and that it was pretty busy. So that was, of course, good to see. And it's something we're trying to do something about as well for our company. So we don't have a very good diversity score, and we're trying to improve it.
I think something that we tend to forget is just because we have less women in the space than men, it doesn't mean there are no women. And it doesn't mean there are just one or two. We are here. Hi, we're here.
Yeah.
We just don't stand out that much. We're maybe a little bit more shy, but we're here and we're building. And I think it's good to every once in a while remember this.
Yeah, I mean, that was my wake-up call. I mean, it wasn't only a crypto space, but still, like, even the startup space, we all know has the same problem. So, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing last words, I would say, that you got a wake-up call yesterday.
Yeah.
I hope to see everyone soon again in the next episode. And thank you very much for being with us, Max.
Thank you for inviting me, Katharina.